try this again. What is up, YouTubers? Okay, this is finishing out some Kingdom Business. Okay, in this edition of Kingdom Business, the point is to grow the kinfolk, is to, get everybody to heaven, on the other side. But it's like, have a homestead and a completeness in our community. The highest level is holy matrimony. So man, woman connected with God. The three-stranded cord. Okay? And then they got to have a place to live. Right? So that's where we're into our homestead. These homesteads can be various. They can be varieties. In the previous Kingdom Business, I was talking about the open-end mortgage to provide a financing strategy where the initial individual can begin the community based off of the equity of the open-ended mortgage. Now, the point of that is, like a mortgage, it's literally, it ends. So you got this fixed term as far as length, but the open-ended does not have the fixed term. And they like that because you're going to keep this thing maxed out, most likely. You know what I mean? Let's Dave Ramsey this thing here for a minute. If you owe them, you can qualify up to whatever your income is, right? That's why I like the trucks. The trucks show decent numbers, 80,000, right? You're driving a truck, your wife's driving a truck, you think that's 80 and 80's 160, but the teams pay more. So you can go drive somebody else's truck, let somebody else do all the paperwork, be a W-2 employee, and knock down 200 as a household, as a couple, just driving a truck. Live in the truck a couple of years, see the sights. Decide where you want to start your community. You know what I'm saying? And look for water. Look for positive government. You know what I mean? Because, you don't want certain houses. I know some nice places in California, but the government's terrible. So I like Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's the best. But, Texas is the thing too, right? Anyways. So, with the open-ended mortgage, the thing stays open until it's completely paid off, and they're banking that you're going to stay maxed out, just kind of like a credit card situation, right? So you're going to be paying a lot in interest, right? Okay, the flip side of this deal is, it's like, if you're old and you do an open-ended mortgage, you know what I mean? Like, when you die, they get the house. So it's kind of like a reverse mortgage thing, where you actually, you're just renting the house from the bank type of deal, but you got that big lump to do whatever you need to do. There's, whatever situation comes up, refinance with the open-ended, and then just put it in the bank, do what you got to do, and then use what's in the bank strategically to pay the payments. And then, whatever makes sense. That's another strategy. But in particular, what I do, what I'm trying to do, is use the truck, and then, I pay myself $100 every week. So the first year, I stack $5,000. The second year, I take the $5,000 and I buy a vehicle. The third year, I flip the vehicle for a $10,000 vehicle, add $5,000 to it. So I bought this pickup for $5,000. Now I'm going to put it back on Craigslist for $6,000 the next year, and then I'm going to buy one. I'm going to take the money that I'll post it for $6,000, take $5,000. I got my $5,000 back out of it. And now I'm going, and you want to use a truck because it don't lose value. Miguel always needs a new truck to go roof a house. So you sell it for $5,000, now you spend $10,000 and you get a $10,000 truck, right? Now it's paid off, so your insurance is real low. You don't care about this thing. Somebody steals it, tears it up, smashes it, scratches, dents, dings. Who cares? Don't care. I don't care. You care? I don't care. It's an old truck. All right. go ahead in the process of this and make payments on a decent vehicle for your wife and kids that is appropriate. Anyway, so you got $5,000. You hid that from everybody, even your wife. Okay, then you got the truck. Then you flipped the truck, got a $10,000 truck. Now you got the $10,000 truck. You're just going to maintain this now. Now you never sell this truck. When you go to the $10,000 truck, you better buy the one. The one. And now you are just fixing a machine. You're going to keep this truck for the next 50 years. You're going to jack this thing up. You're going to change rubber parts and pieces every time a light comes on. Immediately fix it. Immediately fix any problems with this truck. You're going to keep this truck for 45 years. You're going to have this truck. And for 45 years, you are not going to have a car payment on a $100,000 pickup that's going to have $1,000 repairs just for the shop to look at. I seen a guy, he had a jacked up Chevrolet, and they went in there, they changed the glow plugs, and it was $6,000. And then, like, I seen my neighbor with a 5.9 Cummins, 6-speed, 98, and he paid about $10,000 for it. And, he just works on it himself. You know, so it's like super simple. You know, you want a mechanical diesel motor. The older, the better. Like you ever get in like a 94 5-speed 300 straight 6 Ford and just drive around in it? Like, you want to go 55. And then everybody passes you and they're like, because they just think you're an old man. And you feel like an old man. And you're calm like an old man. And it just totally makes sense. Anyway, I got a great one. It's great. I love that truck. Anyway, I got to load it out. Anyway, so now you got $5,000. You're never going to be broke again the rest of your life. It's worth $5,000. Let me just say this. It's worth $5,000 for you to put $5,000 in a dirty sock and throw it in your sock drawer and never spend it for the rest of your life. Ever. Never, ever. And I'm not talking about emergency fund and you can, something came up. I'm going to use this $5,000. No, I'm telling you, take $5,000, put it in the sock, make it like, you know how the restaurants get that first $1, they put it up on the wall? Put that $5,000 in a sock, and put that sock in a sock drawer, and you will never worry about being broke again for the rest of your life. The mindset and the mind shift of that's $1 million mindset for $5,000. That's where your investment is. You know, the Bible says, don't take your investment and put it in a home. Why didn't you do something with it or whatever? Well, you did. You got your noggin straight. And then once you get your head straight, your butt will follow. Okay, but everybody, you know, if you have that, the mindset and the mind shift and the lack of, what am I going to do? Is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And there's a pseudo version of that. It's called a line of credit. Okay? And we are going to leverage lines of credit and all this other kind of stuff too. You know what I mean? But this $5,000 in cash, it's in the sock drawer, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Never be broke. Get the truck, flip, got the money, got the truck, got the nicer truck. Okay, now you're in year 3. Year 4, take your 5 and find somebody and don't trust people, trust traits. Okay? So your traits, you know that guy that's like a handyman and he's a good dude, but like his truck breaks down all the time or whatever. You know what I mean? Take your $5,000 and go into a partnership with this guy. It's better if it's not kinfolk. You don't want that bullshit. As far as like blood relation, but if they're kinfolk as far as church relation, that's fine. But you want to step to this dude and be like, hey, I see you're doing X, XYZ or whatever. I got this $5,000. I want to invest in you. And then whatever the growth is off of that, I want 1% of the growth, and I want to have the discussions. You know what I mean? And now I'm out here driving on the road, so I got this thing on my head. I don't know why I got this thing on my head. So at that point, they just call me, you know, let me know what's going on. You know, like Dennis gets a hold of me and we talk about the dogs. You know what I mean? How's it going washing the boats? You know, how's the dogs doing? You know what I mean? Is the lawnmower working out? You know what I mean? And we got an understanding that he's going to call me anytime there's any problem. Even if it's something he's fixed, even if it's something the wife has fixed, whatever. We got these meetings over the phone. And it's not like some big structured, ominous black cloud and report to me, blah, blah. It's not that at all. It's nothing like that. It's like he is a man and I am a man. And we're both trying to please God. So like, how's your day going? Okay, this and that, yada, yada. And then I respect his opinion and he respects my opinion and we reciprocate. And I learned this running crews. I would tell the crew, I would say, look, we're all just working for Jesus. As far as I'm concerned, we're going to Jesus' house. Act appropriately when we get there. Now, your job might be different than his job, and that both y'all's job might be a little bit different than my responsibilities. You know what I mean? But we're all just working together. We are co-workers for Jesus. And that mindset, dude, it did something for the whole group that was amazing. And then, like, I always bought breakfast, and then it got to where we would end up arguing over who's going to buy lunch. You know what I mean? So, like, somebody'd always sneak off and pay lunch because then it'd come time for the bill, and oh, I got it. No, I got it. No, you got it last time. You know what I mean? And then, like, we're all arguing over who gets to buy each other's dinner or lunch or whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? So that's a way different mindset. And that's how I got there. That's how I got to my ways of thinking. Watching his ways. Because his ways are higher than my ways. So, with this, I talked in this other Kingdom Business video, I talked about how to get the financials. You know what I mean? Because you got to have that. You got to have tools. You got to have vehicles and stuff. Okay, so in this deal, you know, you're out here, you're driving the truck, first year 5, then you get the pickup, then you get the nicer pickup, then you start investing, and then you invest again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Okay, so now you're in the truck, you've been driving the truck for 10 years. You've invested in 6 businesses. So you got this going over here, over there, over here, over there, over here, over there, and you put $5,000 into each one of these situations. And now you're discussing things with these people, right? And then one of the things I started doing is, well, I can't get too specific because of, I don't want to put other people's business out there. I don't care. I'm transparent. I can show you every dime I've ever earned and ever spent. But that's, you know, me. But it involves others. So I have to respect that. So, like, I'm not a name dropper. You know, it's one of them things. Like, no dry snitching, right? Anyway. So if I invest, if I take some investment money, like say I'm broke, but I have a house, and I got something to leverage. You know what I mean? And then say I got pull in the community. So I know this farmer over here's got money, and I go talk to this guy, and I say, hey, you know, let me borrow some money, I'm gonna buy this or that. And then they're like, you know, then there's like the banking side, you know what I mean? So with this open-end mortgage type deal, I can leverage this thing to buy this thing over here. Okay, and then let's, you know, there's always going to be somebody in need. That's a promise from the Bible. Jesus saying you will always have the poor. Okay, so you see this person that's poor, and it's like, why are you poor? You know, and it's like, they got skills and talents and stuff like that. Generally, they're bad about something, and then they're like, not applying themselves, and then to run from the pain of whatever they've endured, they, develop these addictions. And so you help these people, get away from tobacco and sugar. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you can help a heroin addict and stuff like that, and you should to a certain degree or whatever. But what I'm talking about is the ones that already got away from a certain amount. You know what I mean? They're not perfect, but they're functional and just need to step up, right? So here's Jim and Sally. They got a couple kids, whatever. He's a hard-working dude and a great mechanic, right? Now, here's this property over here, and the garage has really tall doors. So there's enough house there for the family. There's enough garage there to start turning wrenches. You know what I mean? So if I go acquire that property with this dude in mind, and I've been, helping provide tools, watching this dude grow, and I see the traits. Like, I'm not going to trust him to pay me. I ain't doing that at all. I'm going to trust that he's going to work to pay for his wife and kids, because he's been turning these wrenches working to pay for his wife and kids for the last 5-10 years. You know what I mean? He just, for whatever reason, can't go to the bank, pull a mortgage, make all the connections happen. They ain't worked out yet. Okay? So I can see how I can step into this situation and be like, okay, Jim, or Bill, whatever, you know what I mean? Here's this situation, you know what I mean? I got this place over here, I can sell this to you owner finance. Like, I can pull money out of this other situation via my open-ended mortgage and buy this 2 acres, and I want to invest in you, turn the wrenches on the side, and then we'll figure out some payments or whatever, $1,000 a month, whatever it is, you know what I mean? And then let's, freaking raise rabbits in the backyard. I don't know, whatever specific to that individual. Maybe his woman's got a green thumb or whatever. Or let's say that he's a carpenter instead. We just make sure there's a wood shop out there, and we put planer and some other stuff. Where this guy can just make a cutting board and sell it on Amazon or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Yeah, maybe this needs a handyman. Maybe this needs an electrician. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe this guy's just stacking boxes. Maybe he's a forklift driver. You know what I mean? Whatever the situation is. Maybe they just want to get away from the city and live the way God wanted them to. And they're just healing and reeling from the pressures of life. And I'm like, well, we got some cows in this field over here. I can park a trailer house out there, and then, when the time comes, we'll, refinance and build a house and all that kind of stuff. And then the trailer house could be the, house that we move to the next land or whatever, you know what I'm saying? For this building of community. So you got the man and the wife with God. That's the height of the government. Then you start setting all these pods of people until you're building the kingdom. And the whole thought is I'm going to fund this guy's dream, right? And then I want 1% of the growth, the net growth, 1%. If this dude works for 20 years and makes $20, you know what I mean? He owes me $2. You know what I mean? Let's say he made $5 billion, but he only profited $2. On his taxes, he owes a tax on $20 after 20 years. That would mean that he owed me $2. You know what I mean? And then on that day, when he comes to pay it, you'd say, keep it. Keep it. Use that money to go do the same thing for somebody else. Because I don't care. I'm working. I got a job. I don't need your money. You see what I'm saying? So the key to this deal is, I'm not going to help someone. See, the bank will help you and then just beat you over the head and take your shit. Okay? I don't help people to take advantage of them. I don't coerce ignorant women into the bedroom. I don't do none of that. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm not greedy. You know what I mean? I want to pass through the eye of the needle. That's my goal. I want to talk to this old boy about passing through the eye of the needle. They'd be like, when you help these people, and then when they bring it back or whatever, like on that day, dude, when somebody tries to pay you back on a loan, they've been working for 5, 6, 12 years, and they come to you and they say, well, 1% of this is this. And they lay it on the table and you're like, keep it. You know what I mean? Me and that man looked him in the eye, shook his hand, spit my hand, shook his hand, took my sandal off, whatever. Like we have an agreement. So every time he grows, he owes me 1%. You know what I mean? And then on that day, when he pays me, and I get to just give it back to him and say, do the same thing for somebody else. Here's your starter pack. You know what I'm saying? Dude, that's the way it works. That's the way it works. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. But like, if my dumb ass can come up with this and do this and bless 27 families, and good begets good, and this, replicates or whatever, like, there is no going to the bank after a while. You know what I mean? And then when I'm doing my banking or whatever like that, over the course of this 15 years, dude, I will pay my house off. Or will I? No, I probably won't. You know why? Because I'm going to keep that leverage. I'm going to keep that thing going. Every time that house is about paid off, I'm going to go buy a field. I'm going to go buy a truck. I'm going to do whatever. Maybe this dude, this chick ain't got no kids. And they want to see the country. And I'm like, there's a Peterbilt. Hope you like Texas, because that's where all the loads are coming from. And then I just let Unibanks do all the paperwork and stuff like that. I provide the truck, get them hired in, and then boom. You know what I mean? I'm making 20 cents a mile. This truck's going, with a team in it, dude, you're looking at 250,000 miles a year. You mean 200,000 miles a year at 20 cents? What is that? That's 40 grand, dude. That's $40,000 of positive income. And if they do that for 3 years and they save up their money, you know what I mean? They're going to have $600,000. You know what I mean? You can go buy your spot for that. Cash. But it'd be crazy. Go get an open-ended mortgage and you go buy it as leverage. And just keep flippity. You know what I mean? It's like a strategy. And you know what I mean? And the whole point is that way when we go to church and we pass the hat because a tornado took out somebody, that hat is so full that we can do what we got to do in these places where we got to go. So when these things are set before us, you know what I mean? Maybe you leverage all this stuff and like build an assembly line to manufacture mechanical diesel engines that go in Jeeps and tractors, like an actual tractor. You know what I mean? And like with a hand crank to start this subitch. And then the apocalypse comes and there's an EMP to wipe out all the electric grid and stuff. And you're just driving your Jeep. And just little stuff like take over the earth for Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, that's my mission statement. You know what I mean? I don't get on here and tell everybody all the particulars. But, like, I've thought this out. Like, I laid the concrete box and got right with God. And then now he just gives me stuff. So, that's about a Mad Max looking Ford right there. Anyways, I probably ought to show you this truck that's past me. It looks like it's got all the bumper. They got a full steel grill on that son bitch, and he's pulling a BMW. That old boy got there. He got some money. look at the automotive industry. You know what I mean? Like, I've said this I don't know how many times, but like if you had the CNC machinery to make decent bearings for a trailer, these bearings that we get are just garbage. I mean, I don't know what the deal is, but if you go buy a 16-foot trailer and you overload that subbitch about twice, yeah, you're gonna have problems. Yeah. Anyways, I guess maybe I ought to get off here. I don't know. I think this is probably far enough. That's Kingdom Business number 2. I hope that this, they don't call me Skip for no reason. Perhaps one day I'll write this stuff down and, like, just actually sit still, focus. It seems like I always think about it while I'm driving, though. Like, oh, and that's their thing. Like, keep your device ready to record. And when you're brainstorming or whatever like that, you get into the flow state. I guess they call it the flow state. And if you feel like Flo from Geico, I just had a bunch more jokes about Aunt Flo, but we're not going to say those jokes. All right, I'm going to get off here. And I think I'm going to go here and get some fuel. All right, Rock Hill, go get them.